Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be discussing Pluto transits and the dark night of the soul. So if you've been looking into spirituality for some time, if you've been through difficult times in your life, you've probably heard of a term that is used to describe a very dark period of someone's life called the dark night of the soul. This period of one's life is really, what it's really about is going deeper into yourself to find your truth, to find your authentic self. And unfortunately, because you haven't got to that point yet, it's actually a very painful experience, and it's a real purging of, you know, your ego, old conditioned beliefs, and many other things. Now, in astrology, the dark night of the soul can be seen where Pluto is transiting. So, for example, right now Pluto is on 16 degrees of Capricorn. If you have Sun, Moon or Rising at 16 degrees of Capricorn right now in your chart, and you know your chart, you can see that in your chart you're experiencing something like a dark night of the soul. Now, sometimes there'll be other transits involved which will intensify or mitigate the effects, but really, generally speaking, whenever you have Pluto conjunct your Sun, your Ascendant, or your Moon, also as well as the angles as well, so if it's contacting the IC or the DC, which is the descendant point, which is on the 7th house, also if it's, I think I mentioned the ascendant, or at the very top of your chart going over your midheaven, these points can be factor in, you know, energies that are similar to a dark night of the soul. But the main influence is if you've got Pluto contacting by transit your Sun, your Moon, your Rising. And the other one I want to add in is Pluto transiting the 12th house, because this is one of the most difficult transits to experience. So, you know, to start with, what is a dark night of the soul? Dark night of the soul is a period of time where somebody will go through a very dark period, hence the term dark night of the soul. But it can also be a period where they feel very alone. They can feel very isolated. They can feel that nobody understands them, that they are dealing with a whole lot of demons on a psychological, emotional and spiritual level. Sometimes you'll find with this type of experience that the person experiencing it feels that there's hardly anybody that understands. There may be one person, if they're lucky, that understands what they're going through, and hopefully if you are going through this, you do have one person at least that you can talk to and confide in, because it is a very, very difficult time of your life. On the positive side, what it's trying to do, it's trying to get you in touch with your true self. It's trying to shed those layers of illusion, of deceit, of untruth, an identity that is a false identity that is not really you, and getting you back to the core of what is true for you, what is your inner light. So, but the thing is, with Pluto, we have to go through the darkness in order to get to the light. And so this is a difficult process, and it's a long process. So, you know, for example, as I mentioned with Capricorn right now, so if you're a Capricorn Sun, Moon or Rising around 16 degrees, Pluto, you know, can spend a year or two on and off going over those points, and it usually has 3 passes over your particular degree. So what you'll find is the first pass of Pluto over your degree is very, very difficult. The second one, it still dredges up a lot more darkness and things from the depths that you thought you were dealt with, you didn't think you had to keep dealing with, and it will bring them up again for you to face. And it's really about facing your fears. What I've experienced, I've had the Pluto transit over my ascendant, I've had Pluto transit through my 12th house. I personally found those one of the most difficult and darker times of my life, mostly dealing with other people, because I have a focus in my 7th house. So I'm a Taurus Sun and Mercury both conjunct in the 7th house, and a lot of my energy is, you know, connected with other people. And when Pluto transits your 12th house, just as an example, and it starts to approach your ascendant, you will find that things from the deep start bubbling up, and many people go through a very tense time, a very stressful time, kind of an isolated time where they just can't break out of a situation. But the positive of that is, once Pluto crosses over the ascendant, you'll find that there is a purging, a final release of these old karmic energies, and a transformation really into a new path and a new you, which is what I also experienced. When Pluto is transiting through the 12th house, you can experience blockages on your life path until you deal with this karma that you're wrapping up to do with whatever that situation is in your life. And some people feel very lost in that time when Pluto is transiting through the 12th house. When Pluto comes towards the Ascendant, you do have to be a little bit careful and mindful of who you invite into your life at that particular time, because you are attracting a lot of dark energies, especially if you have strong Scorpio energy in your chart, if you have, you know, strong energy on the 7th house. You know, it depends what the rest of your chart looks like, but very, very likely that when you have Pluto cross over the Ascendant, you could be dealing with life or death struggle. It could be survival issues. You know, you could be starting a whole new life like I was. I think, how old was I when I had Pluto cross my Ascendant? I was 21 and, no, not 21, 20 years old, and I just left home for the first time, moved out of home, and I was wanting to move out for a while, quite a few years, but I didn't manage to, you know, get the finances together until I was 20 years old, and then it was like, you know, I broke free of that, the karma that I felt that I had to face in my situation. So basically, you know, what is happening to you if you have this dark night of the soul is you're going through a time where you're learning what it is to be empowered. And often it starts where your power, it feels like your power has been taken away in some way, because what it is the old ways of your life, the old conditioned beliefs that you have, your old ego structure is no longer working for you. The old story, you know, that you've told yourself about who you are, it's not necessarily all that there is to you. There's so much more to you, and you're discovering your true metal, your true toughness, your true inner strength, and life will test you on that level of how strong you are. And, you know, I would say if you are really struggling under these transits, it's quite normal. But do seek help from other people, you know, reach out to other people and find trusted people. That's the key thing, because you have to be careful of who you trust when you have the Pluto transits, and you might even feel instinctively that you're not sure who you can trust at this time. There may be people that come into your life that try to undermine you in some way or try to control you. Pluto is all about power struggles, so you may encounter power struggles depending on, you know, say what house Pluto is transiting. If you're a Capricorn sun, you know, you might have it transiting through your 5th house of romance. You do have to be careful of who you get entangled with romantically until the Pluto transit has passed that point for the 3rd time and it's really clear of your sun, moon, or ascendant. Then you'll find that you start to come into this new life of more self-empowerment, more inner strength. You don't feel that you're going to have a breakdown anymore. You don't feel that you're going to, you know, that you can't handle the stress that you're under. Pluto really brings up your fears. Like, I know for me, when I experienced my Pluto transits, it was like every single fear that I ever had just really came to the forefront and really was at the, you know, really in my awareness. And, you know, it can make you feel a lot of fear around the issues that you're trying to deal with. So whatever those issues are for you, you know, it's going to be specific to your psychology, to your life, to your issues that you faced in this life, and to your karma. So, you know, the advice for it is know that what is happening is actually strengthening you. That is what's happening. And to be aware of not so positive influences, especially at the beginning of the transit, people that are not good for you, toxic people, situations that are unhealthy for you, being self-destructive as well, because you can feel very down and you can feel very dark in this energy. You can feel like you're drawn to dark things in a way of to try to purge the darkness that's within yourself. You know, this is what you can be drawn to. And so you do need to be careful of not to become very self-destructive while you have Pluto transits, and to not try to medicate yourself, even though it's more of a Neptune thing, but it can still happen. And really look after yourself, because you can get into a bit of a nihilistic mentality and feel like, oh, you know, I can't survive this, you know. So really there's a rebirth that wants to happen when you have Pluto transits, and it's a rebirth of who you are. You're coming into much more authenticity in yourself, and when you come out of it, it's like, it's really the example or the analogy of the caterpillar in the cocoon, you know, that becomes a butterfly. While you're in that cocoon, it's very painful, it's very difficult. And with Pluto, you know, There may be issues that you have to face to do with fears, extreme fears, survival issues, life and death issues, death of family members, death of a relationship, you know, separation, divorce, completely leaving an old life behind for a new life. And, you know, as human beings, our ego tends to suffer when we go through such deep change, and this is what's happening. But the real jewel of these transits is the strength that you'll find through this. It's really bringing you to a new level of power in yourself, a new level of independence and inner strength at the end of the day, and wisdom, the wisdom that you gain from having seen the darker levels and having experienced the darker levels of life, and then perhaps even be able to help others with that down the track. So, you know, if that's something that you're involved with in your life path. So, you know, anyone that is, you know, a Capricorn, as I said, is going through, well, not all Capricorns, but anyone that's got 16 degrees of Capricorn and then 17, 18, you know, they'll start to experience that at this time. So, you know, the Capricorns have been going through that rough time with Pluto. But as I said, the positive is you're coming into your true strength, your true authenticity. You will no longer put up with situations that undermine you in the way that perhaps you did when Pluto started going through your sign. You will no longer be unaware of hidden traps, you know, or experiences that have taken you by surprise, or sort of you know, tried to pull the rug from under you with your dealings with other people, with your dealings with, you know, these type of difficult situations. You will have more of an awareness of a more, it's almost like a bit more, I want to say, you become a bit more streetwise in a way, a bit more aware of things. If you were a bit naive before, you will have to experience more difficulty and more, you know, getting through tough lessons in order to come out stronger. So if you have any questions about these types of transits, you know, feel free to post below and I'll answer those questions, because it's quite multifaceted. There's a lot of different things. And obviously, you know, at the moment, as I said, it's mostly the Capricorns experiencing this, though, you know, the Librans and the Aries also getting the square from Pluto as well, which is not as severe as a conjunction, but it, you know, it's still not easy. So anyway, that was the video, and I hope that somebody got something out of that. And please post below if you have questions. Thanks, guys.